Patagonia!
I'm about to parachute into the Patagonian ice field, a sub-zero wonderland straddling the southern Andes Mountains. It's the third largest area of continental ice after Antarctica and Greenland. About as far from civilization as you can get. It's not somewhere you'd want to be lost.
That's where I'm being dropped! Down there! Right at the heart of one of the world's toughest wildernesses!
According to the pilot, this is the first time anyone has attempted to parachute onto the Patagonian ice field. The weather has to be perfect. No wind and clear skies, and my timing must be spot on. Tiniest error, and I could be blown miles from my landing zone into the frozen wasteland. I've made it, but only just. The temperature is way below freezing, and there's nothing but snow and ice as far as the eye can see.
Man alive, my ears are just like burning. I cannot feel my fingers at all. Okay, I need to get this stashed and I need to get moving and get that blood going again.
I've got some basic survival gear and a few little surprises, and my crew is coming with me. But you don't want to hang around up here. You're so exposed at the mercy of elements which can kill. Beneath me, the ice field is a mile deep, and it sprawls a chilly 8,000 square miles.
And it's kind of, hard to describe, but if you imagine Antarctica and the Himalayas rolled into one, you'd be getting somewhere close.
You won't find food, you can't make fire. Your only chance of survival is to head down. Just keep on going, don't stop. Early 19th century explorers came here in search of a mysterious smoking peak glowering above the snows. The local Mapuche Indians called it Chalten, or Smoking Mountain, a silent sentinel known today as Mount Fitzroy, its summit often shrouded by mist. It was first climbed in 1952 and stands in the middle of the ice field on the border between Chile and Argentina. Stunningly beautiful, but don't be fooled. This is a frozen death zone.
See that coming straight off the mountain? Avalanche, and this is why this area is so dangerous. You don't want to hang around here, guys. The whole slab just dropped. Let's keep moving.
Avalanches can race down at 200 miles an hour, sweeping all before them in a deathly embrace. You haven't got a hope. And then there are crevasses.
Even though all of this looks just beautiful, it's actually riddled with dangers. If you look up straight ahead, you see all of those crevasses. And what those are basically giant tears in the ice in the glacier. And where the glacier's moving under tension, it rips and it creates these huge chasms. And it's so easy to drop into one of those.
And then you're trapped. In the winter, snow fills these cracks and you just can't see what's solid and what's not.
There you go, look down this. You walk over this, not know about it, this a bit wider, you'll go straight down it. Guys, I want us roped up here.
I hate crevasses. I was almost killed in one on the way down from my first reconnaissance climb on Everest. At 19,000 feet, the ice cracked and the ground disappeared beneath me. I was knocked unconscious and came to swinging on the end of a rope. That rope and my teammates saved my life. But even roped together, crossing the ice is like tap dancing in a minefield.
Okay, I'm out. Holy smoke. Go and have a look at this. There you go, see down that? That is why we're roped. Oh, God. And that is one long way down.
You'd never want to find yourself stuck in one of these.
And this is quite a big one. Go and have a look at this. I've got you. That's it. Nice and steady.
When I came out alive from Everest, I vowed never to set foot in a crevasse again. But I'm going to break that vow to show you how to get out of one of these alive.
And this is really like being in a very frightening deep freeze. Look at that drop below.
The sheer ice walls are as hard as polished marble. There's nothing but an eerie and deafening silence.
I really noticed that cold. You know, you're out of the sunlight and you're in a deep, dark, menacing place.
Get trapped down here and you'd soon become part of the scenery.
And guides in the Alps talk about when they go to recover corpses from crevasses, often having to use literally pneumatic drills to drill the body out of the ice. They're just frozen solid in this stuff. And this for me brings back pretty nasty memories, if I'm honest. I'm not 100% comfortable down here.
It's so deep and there's nothing to grab onto. Without a rope, there's no way you'd get out alive.
Look at my boot on this ice. You know, you're just completely screwed. You really are. And there's no way you'd wedge your way out of this. You know, there's no grit. This stuff is just solid.
I'm in the Patagonian ice field, deep in the heart of a crevasse. It's just like the one that so nearly cost me my life in the Himalayas.
There is something just sinister about these places.
I've been in a lot of tight spots before, but there are a few that make me this scared.
This is not a good place for humans to be or to hang around in, and I want to get out of here, and the way I can do that is just to use a prusik, and all this is a simple loop that has saved so many people's lives. And all you do is wrap it around a few times like that, put this end through it, and then what you then need to do is get your foot into that and stand up. And then once you're up here, you can slide that up.
The sooner you're out of this frozen hell, the better. But don't think crawling back onto the ice field means instant salvation. The weather here is notoriously fickle and notoriously savage. The ice field gets about 30 foot of snow a year, blown in by vicious southwesterly winds from the southern Pacific. Conditions don't get much worse than this, even at the South Pole. It's a wild place where the normal rules of survival go out of the window.
There's a famous story of a plane crash in the Andes just north of Patagonia in the 70s, and on board were a load of rugby players from Uruguay, and somehow 50 people managed to survive the initial impact of the crash, and they did just the right thing. They sheltered in the wreckage of the plane, built themselves a snow wall, and if they hadn't done that, they would have all died that first night. You know, temperatures as low as minus 30 degrees. But it wasn't until over 2 months later that they were rescued, and those that survived only did so because they'd resorted to cannibalism. And in conditions like this, you can see that really that was their only chance of staying alive.
If you're caught in a blizzard, finding shelter has to be your one and only priority.
This whole mountainside is just so featureless, and there's just no natural shelter here. But what I have got is just tons and tons of snow under my feet. And snow is a really good insulator. What I'm going to do is just make a really simple snow cave.
Unless you get out of the wind, you're going to die. Loose drift snow often builds up on the lee slopes, and this makes it easy to dig down and burrow in.
Even if it is halfway up a mountain in the freezing wind and snow, there's something quietly satisfying about making a snow cave. What was my little boy would say? Den.
But make no mistake, these mountains can kill. Even the best prepared are caught out. A few years ago, a Chilean army battalion on exercise near here was caught unawares in a blizzard. In one night, 25 conscripts froze to death.
It looks like I've started digging just in time. The wind's back again, and the weather here just changes. Literally like minute to minute. Like there's a noticeable difference from down here to up here.
I'm compressing the snow into blocks to seal the entrance. It's still going to be cold, but it will keep those relentless winds at bay.
I'm making really good progress now on this. I've been going probably 10-15 minutes, but I've still got a bit of daylight, and really I just want to keep going with this so I can actually sleep properly inside this thing and stay the whole night comfortably.
And believe me, these snow holes work. In 1996, 12 mountaineers were trapped on the northern Patagonian icefield in a blizzard. 14 days later, they were found alive, thanks to burrowing into the snow. It's taken me about an hour and a half to finish this cave.
Yeah, not a bad job, even though I say it myself.
But before you hole up for the night, be extra careful about answering the call of nature.
One of my best friends witnessed a climber on Everest get out of her tent in the middle of the night to have a pee, and she only had her inner boots on, and she actually then slipped and she fell 5,000 foot to her death. And it's why, you know, climbers almost always have a pee bottle. But I haven't got a pee bottle, but I've got my water bottle, and it's empty now, and I need a pee, so I can just use that. And what it's going to do, at least, is keep me warm rather than just wasting the pee. So I'm going to put this on here. And then just pee into this. And I had a terrible experience once climbing, doing this in the middle of the night, and the pee bottle slipped out of my hand, and I had a sleeping bag full of a litre of pee for the next week. It was really bad, it just stank. So since then I'm always really careful. Put the lid on that. Tuck that down my jacket, and hopefully that will keep me warm, but I'm quite snug in here, and I'm just really hoping for a good night's sleep.
I'm out of the storm for the night, but who knows what tomorrow will bring. I've been battered by blizzards, and I've spent the night sheltering in a snow hole. But now, there's an unexpected turn of events.
Wow, what a view. And it looks like the worst of the storm's past. It's still quite windy. It's amazing the difference in there though. And actually, yeah, it wasn't a bad night, a little bit bumpy in the mattress department and still quite cold, but this really cheers me up. It feels like one of those times where the mountains really give you strength rather than sap it from you. beautiful.
But you can't count on anything in Patagonia, and it's not long before the weather closes in again. After a night sleeping on the ice, I need to warm up a bit. The last thing you might expect out here is dehydration, but it's as lethal in the cold as it is in the heat. You can lose up to 2 litres of fluid in just an hour. If you don't replace that lost water, you wouldn't last more than a few days.
The thing is, there's not exactly a lot of nice running streams up here. It's just masses of snow. But you really need to resist the temptation to start eating fresh snow. And this is a mistake some of these survivors from the Andes plane crash made, is that they would start eating it just like this. And what it did was like burn their lips, give them ulcers and blisters inside their mouth, and also really lower their body core temperature. So instead, just get your water bottle and just stuff it full of snow. Press it all in there, and when that's full, stuff it up your jumper, just between the layers, not next to your skin. And then as you move, that's going to slowly melt. But guys, this wind is picking up, and it started snowing again. I need to get going before I lose the feeling in my finger.
I know from bitter experience that one of the most painful hazards on the mountain is frostbite. The biting cold freezes the plasma in your cells, which then burst, causing agonizing giant red blisters.
And eventually, over a few months, they'll turn black, and they'll either need to be amputated or they'll fall off. And actually, I've got one friend whose finger fell off on the squash court. And I've got another friend who had to hacksaw through his own finger. He said he got cheesed off but kept stubbing it, the dead end of it, so he just hacksawed it off.
The first stage of frostbite is frost nip, and that can happen in just 60 seconds.
But I've had frost nip myself on my cheek and my hands, and it's very painful. And what happens once you've had it, your resistance to the cold afterwards is much less. That's why I get such cold hands nowadays. But the discipline is always just to keep wiggling your fingers, wiggling your toes, and also your face.
Once frostbitten, nothing repairs itself. The damaged cells will never grow back again. Blizzards like this can mean total whiteout. It's all too easy to lose any sense of direction, and even easier to stumble into the path of an avalanche.
Guys, you need to be a little bit careful here. It's really, all of this space is pretty classic avalanche territory. You know, we've got all this fresh snowfall, we've got a steep slope, high winds, and also we've got the trigger, which is us.
Avalanches claim the lives of over 200 people every year, and they've often triggered them themselves.
I reckon if I can just get up onto this ridge through this deep snow, that'll be a good spot to actually see if I can trigger just a little avalanche and show you how dangerous these conditions are.
It's a risky thing to do, but it'll prove just how swift and lethal they are.
All of this ridge really here is ripe for avalanche. It's in the lee slope, deep, soft snow. I reckon this cornice, with a bit of help, will go.
And when one bit goes, the rest should thunder down. To anchor my rope, I'm burying my pack in the snow.
And that then is going to hold really solid.
Now that's secure, I'm going to rappel over the ridge, creating channels in the snow.
Wow, let me see how deep this is.
This should loosen the snowpack enough to provoke a mini avalanche. And I'm using a mini camera to show you what it's like to be buried alive.
Okay, let's see if this is going to trigger.
Looks like my mini avalanche is working.
Where's the camera gone?
In seconds, it's buried. If this was you, your only chance of getting out alive is to be found quickly. But that's easier said than done. Just 6 inches of snow and you can't even move your eyelids. Never mind open your mouth to call for help. After half an hour, your chance of getting out alive is a mere 30%. And if you're not found in 2 hours, you're dead. After 45 minutes, I finally find the camera.
You alive?
My mini avalanche was just a few feet of snow.
Imagine what happens when that's 1,000 feet of avalanche, tons and tons of snow, and the whole thing gone. That's how dangerous these things are, but also how difficult it is to find people. And get out of here. Our friends that I climb with often tease me that I've always got like a pocket full of nibbles or candies just to suck on. But when you're in a place this barren with so little to eat, you know, there's actually some science to this. And if you just have a little, you know, mint like this, just have a little suck of it, just for like 10 seconds, what it actually does is triggers your brain to think that you're getting food, and then it releases vital energy and gives it a real boost.
I don't want to hang around on the mountain. With the weather yet again worsening, I need to get out of here and fast. Woo! I'm being pounded by a blizzard on a freezing mountain in Patagonia.
And in snow like this, you need to get off the mountain fast. You can use what's called the plunge step. And all you do, take nice long strides, swing your legs out, and sink down on your heel. And it's a very efficient way of moving. And what happens, the momentum begins to take over. And the faster you get, the more fun it is.
And at last, the weather's on my side.
Really, when the sun is out like this, Patagonian ice field is just breathtaking.
I'd always wanted to explore this harsh mountain wilderness, and boy has it lived up to expectations. Stunning it might be, but this is a dangerous beauty battered by extreme elements. But my next challenge awaits me, the subalpine forest. I just need to get out of here in one piece.
Guys, you know what? We've got still winds, cliff face. This is flyable. So let's do it.
As every scout knows, you've got to be prepared. My backup plan to get off these mountains is one of the smallest paragliders in the world.
Okay, we're set. And I always think there are two ways off the mountain. There's a slow, long way, or there's a fast, quick way. And I know which I prefer. Here we go.
Taking off the mountainside, lovely. Landing in the beech forest, not so good. The forests of southern Patagonia is like something out of a gothic nightmare. Dense, impenetrable, and so easy to get utterly lost.
And trying to hack your way through this stuff, you just get shredded, because look how sharp all of that stuff is. And it's like you push through one bit and another bit flicks back in your face, and everything's just clawing at your legs as well. It's so hard just keeping the direction, just because it's a mass of thorns, branches, and that's all you can see.
There's no way you want to hang around here. You just have to struggle through the wind-stunted beach until you can literally see the wood for the trees.
The trees are thinning a bit now.
I've made it to a clearing, only to come face to face with an even worse obstacle.
Oh, this isn't looking so clever.
There's no going back, and I can't waste time. I've just got to go through it. The mash-in peat bogs of Patagonia are a lethal, reeking combination of rotting vegetation and freezing cold water. An evil concoction.
God, it just absolutely stinks. I don't know what all of this is, but it certainly doesn't look very nice. At the moment, I'm knee deep in it. Let's just get across this.
This is grim, bitterly cold, gnawing away at every ounce of energy.
This is just like a giant mud and ice slush puppy. My feet are now soaking wet and full of mud. Let's just get through this.
Getting wet is one of the biggest dangers in Patagonia. If my core temperature drops just a few degrees, I could get hypothermia. My senses will start slowing down, my limbs numb. All too soon, I could fall unconscious. I wouldn't stand a chance in this unforgiving terrain. It just feels like it's out to get you. It's exhausting, but you must battle on. Get out and get warm and dry as fast as possible. And at last, I'm through.
It's kind of time for find some food and make a fire. And what I'm going to use just for tinder is all of this stuff. It's called barba de viejo, which literally means old man's beard. And you can see why. Look, it's really kind of wispy. But the reason it's good for tinder is that it grows on these trees and therefore it's off all of the nasty wet ground, and it should take a spark pretty well.
Lucky for me and my soaking wet body, barba de viejo lives up to its reputation as great tinder.
Okay, we've got fire. And this is such a nice stage to get to when you've got that initial spark and then it's beginning to catch and you know you're in business. And it never fails to make me smile.
It's just a morale booster I need to forage for food.
There's a bit of a pond here. It's not a bad place to have a look.
And out here, you can't be fussy.
That's all just pondweed, and it looks a little bit like kind of watercress, but you can eat this. Doesn't taste very good, but you can eat it. It tastes like salad that somebody's put a lot of mosquito repellent on. Ugh.
But you must grab what you can, especially as there's precious little food. Patagonian winters last 5 months, and I'm here right at its bitter end.
I found a couple of these little beetle larvae. Oh look, also earthworm as well. But this little beetle larva, where's the other one? Oh no, did I drop him? Oh well, I've got one. And really Patagonia this time of year, it's as bad as good as you get for eating. It's not gonna give a lot of energy, but if you scrabble around long enough in all this dead wood, you'll find those sort of things, and also these sort of earthworms. Give them a little clean. Just like mud and mucus. And it always feels like, whenever I eat these things, the last thing they do in revenge is go to the loo in my mouth. So why? It always tastes like that.
Pondweed, beetle larvae and worms. Hardly a feast, but better than nothing to fuel your bid to get out of here alive. I'm in the dense subalpine beech forest of Patagonia. 45 miles wide, it's incredibly easy to get lost here.
These forests can be just so disorientating.
Its unrelenting monotony makes navigation a nightmare.
Especially when there's no horizon to follow. And it's just trees and trees as far as you can see.
In a survival situation, your only way out alive is to go downhill. Following a stream is a classic technique. Not that it's always easy to find one. You've just got to keep your wits about you.
Sounds just like reverberating around the trees, but I think it's over this way. Here we go. Got it. Okay, all we've got to do now is follow this.
For every 300 feet of altitude you descend, the temperature's going to rise by 2 degrees. So you're not just walking your way out of trouble, you're also reducing the risk of hypothermia. And nature's larder gets better.
Hey, look at these. These are little chara berries. And they're delicious. Kind of just taste like a bit like sour apples. And the Mapuche Indians who used to live in these forests used to love these. And they'd even like ferment them and make like a Mapuche hooch out of them. Okay, let's keep going.
The problem with following a stream is you never quite know where you'll end up.
And this idea of following the stream that earlier was such a good plan is now looking a little less bright, and I'm hoping that is not what I think it is. Whoa! Go and have a look at this. That's a drop. Woo! And that must be about 150 foot straight down to the bottom. If you go over that, it's good night. I suppose the options are either just to head all the way back upstream, or maybe try and find a route round some of these cliffs. But look, even these are looking pretty sheer. But I reckon with a rope, this is doable. And it's just the sort of thing I love. Rope's ready, here we go.
Rappelling down this cliff is going to save me hours, but I've got to get my line of descent right. Get it wrong, or if the wind picks up, I could swing right into the path of the waterfall, where I'd be pummeled to death by hundreds of tons of ice-cold water.
Quite a drop down here. Well, that's the way to get down a big waterfall like that.
Following the stream has paid off. I'm off the mountain and I'm in the valley.
It looks like a bit of a nest up there.
Already there are more welcome signs of life.
Yeah, that could be a woodpecker nest or something like that.
If I can find some, eggs are a great source of protein, vitamins and fat. One of the best possible survival foods.
But there's nothing in there. Actually, it looks like there's some fungus in that tree. Let's have a look. Yeah, that's what I'm after. See those?
Xiao Xiao was a survival staple for the indigenous people of Patagonia, who swore by it. The settlers called it pan de indio, Indian bread.
They look a bit like shriveled golf balls. And I've always wondered what it tastes like. And the answer is like a kind of soft, pretty tasteless, slightly old mushroom. Yeah, there's not a lot of energy in this, but better than nothing. It's a bit like kind of melted cheese in the middle. Wish it was.
I've survived the ice fields and made it through the beech forest of Patagonia. But there's one final obstacle in my path, and I'm gonna try and cross it. I'm about to face my most dangerous challenge yet in Patagonia.
Really, if you needed to cross this lake, the survival manual would say, go around, because you do not want to mess with glacial, freezing cold water like this. The only thing is, there is an awful lot of driftwood, you know, all along this shore. And part of me feels it's kind of irresistible just to see whether I might be able to build a raft to cross this.
I can use my parachute cord to lash the driftwood together.
And what you need is a couple of these good, long, sturdy trunks, and then some cross braces, and then just lay logs and branches along the top of it. And then have a couple of uprights like this. Use a bit of this parachute canopy, and if the wind picked up, you can make yourself a pretty simple and not half decent sail raft.
A raft like this would take you about 3 hours to make. If it fails me, I could end up in the freezing lake, and that's where you need a backup plan. So I've got a fire going in case I need to get warm and dry in a hurry.
Get this baby in.
And people do come unstuck. I've heard of 3 local guides who were killed near here after their raft flipped over. They were all strong swimmers. It was the extreme cold that killed them. It's like throwing yourself in an icebox.
Okay, we're afloat. Pretty low in the water, but I am afloat. And what's typical is that Patagonia is probably one of the windiest places on Earth. And when I want it for my sail, it's as still a day as you will ever come across.
But this water is barely above freezing.
The thing is, this raft is floating about 6 inches under the water. And this is not ideal. My boots are beginning to fill out of water. And it is icy cold. It's like having your foot in an ice bucket.
I'm beginning to doubt whether the raft's going to hold up. And I'm getting colder fast.
This is going to take me an hour at least to cross at this rate. Already my legs are going quite numb, to be honest. Do you know, guys, it's crazy. Carry on with this. I'm just not going to make it across. Let's try and pedal this back a bit. My legs has gone through one of the things as well. Okay, I'm going to have to swim this. It's going to take me 20 minutes to get this raft back. And that's 20 minutes at the moment that I just don't have. My legs really, they're starting to just like real pins and needles. But really, this jacket and this top is my salvation. And I've got to keep this dry and then just swim for it. Giving it a good go, but sometimes you gotta know when to just count your losses. Okay. Oh, yeah. It is icy. Ice. And you just feel slowly different parts of your body stinging and going numb. And this is very low down the list of fun things to do. Oh, it's calm. Oh, I've lost that raft. That's still out there, but at least I've got this fire. But I need to get these wet clothes off. You know, the cold can be so dangerous just because it numbs all your feeling and your strength. And even the simplest of things become almost impossible. And even though I had to do it in a bit of a rush, at least these, thank God, are dry. Ah, and that is suddenly much better.
Resist the temptation to frantically rub your arms and legs to stimulate circulation. It will draw warm blood away from your heart and vital organs.
Let's hope it doesn't start snowing again.
If cold blood from the extremities rushes back to your core, you could die from something called afterdrop. Instead, warm yourself slowly so your body temperature gradually gets back to normal.
And really, you know, the moral of this story is if you're going to build a raft and try and cross almost freezing lakes, you've got to have a backup plan. You know, otherwise this landscape and terrain is very unforgiving. Just beginning to feel my toes again.
The ice fields and beach forests of Patagonia present unique challenges, and there have been times when I've wondered if I've met my match here, whether the force of nature is simply too much for human survival. To be honest, experiencing the harsh Patagonian elements has been very humbling, and I'm just relieved we made it out of there in one piece.